Hey guys, it's Cayley. I'm back with another What Sold from Last Week video. I do these videos every single week to share with the reseller community things that are selling well for me, what I think buyers are looking for, and what I am personally looking for out at the thrift store. If you guys are new here, hi, my name is Cayley, and I have been a reseller for over 10 years. I started my journey on YouTube to share basically what nobody else was talking about, all the things I wish I would have learned. And I have grown my businesses since then from 0 to 6 figures. I now coach other people here online and also in a reseller community I created called Reseller's Edge University, which is a reseller fast track program. If you're interested in doing that fast track program, I'll have the information for that down below. And if you guys really like learning about high sell-through bolos that are undervalued, overlooked, ones that you can pick up for yourself and flip, we at Reseller's Edge just put out a sample of our bolo list. You can click the link below to sign up to get your free 10 bolos. This is a sample of some of the bolos that are on REU's 800 plus brand bolo list. And so now let's get into what sold for me last week. All right, as you guys know, I always go over my fastest sales first, then we move on to my higher price sales as well as some everyday things that I look for, and then we finish up with 3 items that I kind of regret that did not go well, and I explain through why I probably wouldn't pick those up again. So moving on to the fastest selling items, I actually had much less faster selling items than I did last week. If you guys watched last week's What Sold video, then you know that half of the video was items that sold in less than 2 weeks. I've got about 8 for you today, and then I've got a lot more higher priced items. So let's dive into the first one here. This is the brand Free Fly. This is definitely a bolo that you want to know about. This brand is known for using bamboo in their materials, and bamboo is a great material to be on the hunt for, and it's how I'm able to use an indicator of quality, something that's not a brand label, to look for brands that I may not know when I come across bamboo. And that's how I found Free Fly. The brand has this little logo right here, which are 3 little waves, and that's sometimes how I come across them. I will say this brand performs better in the men's department, and obviously in more substantial pieces you're going to get more, but I pick up almost everything in this brand, and it usually sells for around $25 and higher for me. So this one is a pair of Free Fly men's pull-on athletic bamboo lined shorts. That's my title. And these sold for $25 as expected in just 1 day of being listed. And that made my earnings on Poshmark, which is one of the platforms that I sell on, $20. I love brands like this, especially ones that are more bread and butter, because they tend to be the ones that people overlook. And for me, keeping items churning and having cash flow steadily coming back to me is how I was able to grow my business quickly, building off of high sell-through rate bolo brands like this. All right, next up, this one is Pilcrow by Anthropologie. I don't really pick up a lot of Anthropologie anymore. It really depends on what it is. I have to be very picky. But as you guys know from watching previous What Sold videos, a category that has been performing extremely well for me has been women's wide leg pants, especially when they are linen. These ones were not, however, they were within that same realm, very coastal, very beachy. Other keywords I used were like nautical, vacation, and lightweight. And they were Anthropologie. So even though they weren't linen, that fact helped to increase it. And they were also new with tags. And so these ended up selling for $45 on Poshmark in just 3 days of being listed, making my earnings on Poshmark $36. This, by the way, this What Sold video is going to be very brand heavy. I sold a lot of high sell-through rate brands recently versus some of the other style-based stuff that I'm doing. And just like any business, it ebbs and flows, which is why I really like having all 3 sourcing streams, so that I can make sure no matter what I'm coming across, I'm still going to find stuff that's going to flip for me. But this just happened to be a particular week where I'm selling a lot of brand-based stuff. I've seen a lot of people say like, oh, you completely switched your business over to style-based sourcing. That is not true at all. We still sell a ton of high sell-through rate brand-based things. It's just lately I've been really focusing on showing you guys some of the style-based stuff, because It's just stuff that, not everybody thinks about. It's harder to learn, and try to introduce that to my audience as they are also learning this new sourcing stream. So this one is also very brand-based. This is a super high sell-through rate brand. This is Print Fresh, and this brand is sold at Anthropologie, but they're also their own brand. They are well known for their pajamas, although now they also make other things like dresses and things like that. But I usually come across their pajamas, and what I like about that is pajamas are a section not a lot of resellers check. Even at the bins, people see pajamas and they toss them aside. You do not want to skip this brand of pajamas. And usually with pajamas, you can not very often flip it if you don't have the full set. This is one of those brands that if I came across just a top or just a pair of shorts or just a pair of pajama pants, I would absolutely pick it up. It is so high sell-through rate, it flips super quickly. I was lucky enough to come across a set at a thrift store, and oddly enough, this wasn't even in the pajama section. The thrift store had put it in the women's t-shirts, which I was so thankful for. So I picked this up. I think I paid $8.99 for the set. This actually ended up selling in a bundle. I'm only showing you this one listing right now, but it did sell in a bundle. And for this item alone, it sold for around $69. And so with this selling on Depop and the extremely low fees, my earnings would have been around $65 for just this one item. Again, it did sell in a bundle with another item, but for the one item, insane amount of profit, over $60 for a pair of pajamas. These sold in just 5 days of being listed. Here's that tag one more time. All right, and next up, my next fastest sale was also on Depop. This is a style-based category that continues to perform well for me, which are micro mini skirts. Now, there's a difference between mini skirt and micro skirt, and there's also a difference between just any micro skirt you can find and this one. There are certain factors that I have to make sure are in a micro skirt in order for it to sell well for me. And actually, if you look up sell-through rate on micro skirts in just about any brand, you're not going to see it, which is why, again, I like learning style-based stuff. This one is by the brand Charlotte Russe, and this is a Y2K label. This is a pleated micro mini skirt, and my exact title for this one was Vintage Charlotte Russe Women's Y2K Micro Mini Skirt, size medium, tan, clueless, and pleated. I'm sure I used some other keywords in the description, like brats would have been a good keyword for this. Preppy could have been another good one for this. But I try to put the most impactful keywords for each piece in the title, because that's what platform suggests that you do. I actually listed this, believe it or not, for $40 on Depop, and it sold on an offer for $29, which I accepted in just 6 days of being listed. Again, just because you pick up a style-based piece, you cannot rely on normal sell-through rate like you do brand-based items. And if you were to look at the sell-through rate of this, you wouldn't expect it to sell in 6 days. And that's the beauty of resellers who take the time to learn style-based sourcing and the ones who don't. You're going to see those quick flips and quickly understand how they move and be able to weave that into your sales. Because of low fees on Depop, even though this sold for $29, my earnings on the order were $27.53, which is pretty cool. All right, next up, we have a Poshmark sale. This is the brand Habitat. This is kind of like a log and look, artsy, known for their linens and cottons brand. This brand definitely has dropped in sell-through rate, but depending on what they have, I find that if I price competitively, I still move this brand pretty quickly. So that's why we got these pants. These are a pair of wide leg pants again. These are a size large, and we use keywords such as log and look with this brand, as well as lightweight, breathable, coastal, and beachy. These ones only took 12 days to sell, and they sold on an offer for $22. That made my earnings on the Poshmark $17.60. Next up, another linen one. It is really crazy how much linen is still selling, but soon I know it's just going to drop because it's already starting to turn into fall weather here in Ohio, having some glimpses of it. So I can see linen really taking a dive very quickly. And so I'm so happy to be moving all of these linen pieces right before the season switches over. So this is Flax. This is a great brand to look for in linens. It is a brand that can become oversaturated depending on the style you have. In this case, this is a long sleeve top, which is really aiding in the value and the sell-through rate of it because it's a larger size. My keywords for this were white, coastal, beach, nautical, and log and look. And I sold this long sleeve linen flax top for $30 in just 14 days of being listed. That made my earnings $24 on Poshmark. All right, this was one of my fastest sales, but it was also one of my lowest price sales, and I wanted to include it in this section for you because I think it's a good lesson. So this Smart Wool men's polo shirt sold in just 14 days of being listed, 2 weeks. If you guys are new to reselling, selling something within days, weeks, or even sometimes months is very quick for items. Typically, items sit for 3 months to sometimes they never end up selling. So 3 months or less is really quick in my book, and very happy with this sale. This one is a great brand to look for. It is Smart Wool, especially as we move into that fall and winter season, because this brand is known as the brand would infer is like a wool type brand, and they make wool base layers, and that just means like it's a thinner type material that is typically layered. This brand, however, then went and branched out into other things like polos, but the reason people like what I'm just calling like a base layer is because it is super thin and it feels like a regular t-shirt. And so you can wear something lightweight, breathable, movable in the colder weather, but it's still going to keep you warm. And so that's why people like brands like Smart Wool. This one I wanted to include because it is one of my fastest sellers, but I only listed it for $20, which I normally wouldn't do with a Smart Wool item. Typically they're going $35 to $50 for me pre-owned. However, this one had some major flaws. There was some staining on the front of it, and it was pretty large staining. And so because of that, it just wasn't in excellent condition. And the lesson here is you can still move pieces quickly, get your money back, get that cash flow going, and reinvest into items that are going to sell and make you money, versus what I see most resellers do, which is they still try to get the same price out of it as they would if it were unflawed. And so when we see something that's majorly flawed, typically we are discounting it heavily to get that to move. Once there's a barrier to overcome with a buyer, it's really hard for them to overcome those things. And so typically items will sit. Sometimes we won't even list them at all. Since this was a decent brand, we just dropped the price and continued listing it. So I listed this for $20 because of that spot. And this ended up selling on an offer to watcher for around $17. That made my earnings only $12.72. Why am I still happy with the sale? Because that is a net profit of, I don't remember how much I paid for this in wholesale, but a net profit of at least $5 versus me just either tossing the item or versus me, if I would have listed this at $35 still, or even $30, it probably would have never have sold. And so that's taking up space. It's taking up my cash flow. And so I just think it's a really good lesson for all resellers. The most important thing is to keep items moving and don't hold on too tightly to things, even if they're in a great brand like Smart Wool. All right, and the last fastest selling item before I move on to the higher price category is this very plain looking pair of women's pull-on pants. So these are a pair of cropped pants. They're just black. It looks like we have a capitalization error in the title, and they still sold in 14 days of being listed. This is a brand that is known, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, for bamboo. Free Fly was the brand I showed you first. Anytime you see bamboo, always look it up, even if you don't know the brand. So for instance, I came across this pair of green apple, again, very plain looking pair of pants. Had never heard of green apple before. They were also cropped pants, which normally I'm not picking up cropped pants. They're just not substantial enough. But because I felt Bamboo. I gave it a look up. Tag doesn't even look that great. And this brand actually has a really awesome sell-through rate. So you definitely want to keep your eye out for this brand, Green Apple, and really, again, anything that has bamboo. Here is their logo here. And I made sure to put bamboo in the title as well. I listed these for $35. They sold in just 2 weeks of being listed on an automatic offer to watcher, which I use Nifty to do. So it captures the buyer's attention and it makes sales like this. And it sold on the automatic offer for $29.64, making my earnings on eBay $22.54. All right, next up, moving into some of my higher price sales. A lot of my higher price sales were actually from consignment, which I know I've mentioned to you guys before, but this is a new sourcing venture that we started probably at the beginning of this year, where people can send us stuff. We do have rules and requirements on that, but people can send us stuff for us to list for them, and then we take a cut of the profits if it sells. And so typically it's higher price stuff with, decent sell-through rates. So here are a few of those. I'll be splitting the net profits with the person who can sign this with us. Oddly enough, the first two are Birkenstock shoes. This is Papilio by Birkenstock. Let me show you here. Birkenstocks has a couple different lines. Batula is another one of them. There's lots of different ones. And if you don't know them, you wouldn't know they're Birkenstocks or align with Birkenstocks. So basically, if you see anything that looks like Birkenstocks and has the little footies here, you definitely want to look those up. Birkenstocks is one of the most popular shoe brands right now. It has not changed for many years, and so it's definitely one that holds a lot of weight, in my opinion. And sandals can also sell in fall and winter because people wear them with like alpaca socks. So don't be afraid to pick up Birkenstock sandals in the winter. Men's definitely going to do better than the women's in terms of sell-through rate and average sale price. And so this was no exception. This one was a pair of men's Arizona vegan leather strappy sandals. We have these listed probably for like $90-something on Poshmark, and they ended up selling in just 18 days on an offer for $81 on Poshmark, and that made my earnings on the order $64.80, which again I will split with the consignor. All right, next up, another pair of Birkenstocks. This one's actual Birkenstock, and this is another pair of men's Birkenstocks. You can see there are a little bit of wear with this one, but they're in really excellent condition. I think they were only tried on. This one was called the Milano 3-strap sandal, and this one we listed for $85 on eBay, and this one sold in just 19 days of being listed for one of those nifty automatic offers to watchers of $72.14. That made my earnings on eBay $56.25, which again I will split with the person who consigned it. And next up, another consignment piece. This is the brand ALC. Now this brand ALC does not have a super high sell-through rate, but it is a very high retailing brand. The thing about this brand is it does unfortunately take a while to sell. It requires the right buyer. Do I still get excited when I see it? Yes, I do, which is why when this was offered through consignment, we did decide to list it, but we did expect that it may not sell within 90 days. We tried to make sure we priced competitively because of that, but unfortunately this one did take too long to sell, and so it got price dropped. This one took 178 days to sell, so almost double my goal. And it ended up selling for $67.50, which was a dropped price, making earnings $53.14. Not bad at all. I guess I wanted to point this out because I know sometimes we get really excited with high retailing brands, but we don't realize the cost. In my case, I didn't have a cost, but we don't realize the cost as sellers of grabbing something and how long it can actually stay in inventory and have your initial cost of goods investment tied up when that money could be used into wash, rinse, repeat other things. And so it's just a good lesson. But this is a decent brand to look for. if I came across it again and it was decent cost of goods, I would probably get it. All right, next up, I got this one from Colorado. This is Johnny Was. It was a silk shirt dress. It was actually, I figured out the style name. It was called the Jasmine Silk Shirt Dress. I was very excited to find this because, as you guys know, I was having some trouble sourcing in Colorado. The prices were just so expensive. I went to so many thrift stores and left with nothing. And then at the end of the day, we tried one more place, and this is where I found like a bunch of great items, including this shirt dress. So this one's a size extra small, which normally I would steer away from, but it was a little bit oversized, which really helped. Plus it was silk and it had patchwork all over it. My exact title was Johnny Was Jasmine Silk Shirt Dress, size extra small, patchwork, maximalist, geometric, and artsy. And then I'm sure we put things like boho in the description as well. I listed this for $65 and it sold in just 37 days of being listed for my full asking price on eBay, making my earnings $49.81. All right, another really awesome sale. I believe this was also consignment. This is the brand Todd Snyder, which is one of the best men's brands to find right now. Not everything in this brand has a high sell-through rate, but most things do. So I get very excited every time I see it. These were called the Traveler Suit Shorts. They were seersucker, they were ombre, nautical, just a really cool pair of shorts and an excellent brand. This one's also new with tags, which definitely helped. This pair of shorts I listed for $60 and it took only 79 days to sell for my full asking price of $60 on eBay. That made my earnings $46.24. All right, another very high sell-through rate brand-based item. This is why it really pays to be the most educated reseller in the thrift store. I know I say that a lot, and I definitely don't say it to sound conceited or like be on a high horse, but I really think that should be everybody's goal. It is so important with, you know, how many people are reselling and just your overall like confidence when you walk into a place to source. If you see a ton of people, ton of other resellers, because you can usually tell, you might feel discouraged and not want to shop there, or maybe you end up going there late at night and you think it's pick through. There is always, always, always going to be something there that somebody else overlooked. And that's why it's so important to be the most educated reseller at any place you go. Education, education, education is so, so important. I took that on myself for a really long time. When I was reselling and growing my business to 6 figures, I heavily focused on research and educating myself. Now I get to do it for other people in a much easier condensed format in Reseller's Edge and also here on YouTube. So hopefully you've learned something from me. And if, again, you're ready to take that next step, you can check out Reseller's Edge as well. But be the most educated reseller. It will take you so, so far. All right, so this is a pair of Rag & Bone shorts. If you guys know Rag & Bone, they have a terrible sell-through rate these days. Used to be able, well, I don't really get excited to find it anymore, to be honest with you. Most of their stuff sits, sell-through rate's really, really bad. But there are, you know, a few styles, just like there are in every brand, that have crazy, insane sell-through rates, and those are the things that I'm looking for and I know that I need to be aware of. The short section is not typically a place that I expect to find stuff, but there are a few things that I look for, and this is one of them. And if you don't know what these are, you definitely want to memorize these. They're so easy to overlook because they look like fast fashion painted on denim pull-on shorts. I mean, just be honest, that's what they look like. But these are called the Rag & Bone Miramar denim shorts. They also make jeans and denim looking joggers that are also the Miramar line that also look like this, where they look kind of painted on. Oh my gosh, crazy high sell-through rate. They sell so well. I was really shocked because I hadn't found these in a while when I looked up for the shorts and they were going for $50 to $100, like crazy insane prices, and they had over 100% sell-through rate. Mine were even in a size small. So I actually found this one and this one back to back at the same thrift store after it had been picked over. And again, that's why you got to stay educated. Both of these shorts took about 2 weeks to sell. They each sold for about $55 each, which were offers to watchers. And yeah, I made some crazy good profit from both of these jeans. So these were some of my highest price sales. I wanted to make sure to show you both of those. They both sold super quickly, one on eBay and one on Poshmark. All right, next up, another brand you definitely want to know are Hoka One One. This is an excellent brand to look for in shoes. Now, this is a brand, I'm going to say it hesitantly, but this is a brand that sometimes you can sell even with wear. The one thing I do look for when it comes to wear is that the soles are still in good condition so that there's not rundown soles, chunks out of it. But as far as everything else, people use them to run in, to hike in, and if the style with the size has a good sell-through rate, I don't typically let wear deter me in this brand, as long as the tread is there. And it's been a really good way to flip items, because most resellers see it and they don't want to touch it because it looks dirty or stained. Not with Hoka's. So this is a pair of Hoka One One women's Kaha GTX hiking boots. They're boots, crazy insane sell-through rate. Much more likely to find high sell-through rate in boots versus shoes. But as you can see, these are pretty heavily stained. We tried to clean them up, but they still have lots of marks. However, when I looked up the specific style, it had like a 200% sell-through rate. So I knew even flawed, it would still probably sell. And so what I do in those cases is I just drop the price to be competitive. You can see the tread is still in really great condition. I think I listed these for around $65 on Poshmark. It sold in just 25 days of being listed, even with all of the wear. And I actually replaced the insoles as well. Sold in just 25 days for $50, and I made $40 off of the sale. This is why it's really important to understand sell-through rate, demand of an item, so that you can know whether demand is high enough for you to pick up an item with flaws or with not. Some people choose not to list anything with flaws in their store, which is totally fine. For me, I'm sourcing a lot. I want to pick up anything that is going to flip quickly, even if it has flaws. But you have to be really careful with it and understand demand. All right, next up is another Bolo brand you want to be on the lookout for, which is Fenka, and this is their logo. It looks like a little lowercase cursive F. Now, often this brand doesn't have the rip tag inside, and you're left with just this little F. Fenka has a pretty decent sell-through rate for most of their items, especially their like body sculpting contour type leggings, which you can tell from the striping on this. It's like what they're known for. And they typically sell for, I would say, $30 to $60 for me. This one I was able to sell for more because it did have the rip tag and I wasn't having to guess the size. So this ended up selling in just 49 days on Poshmark for $46, making my earnings $36.80. Next up, this is Lilly Pulitzer, one of my favorite brands to find and sell. Just like Anthropologie, I don't pick up everything anymore, but there are certain styles that do well. Anything zip pullover related, I would definitely be looking up. This one is called the Milena UPF Popover Top, and it's also in a size large, which is really going to increase the value of Lilly Pulitzer. I listed this for $45 on eBay. It only took 28 days to sell for my full asking price, making my earnings $34.16. All right, that was it for my highest price sales. Now I want to show you guys 5 noteworthy things, just stuff that didn't fall into the other 2 categories. Some things I just want to point out to you that you may want to be on the hunt for. This is a men's denim brand called Cult of Individuality. This brand, I would say, has a pretty decent sell-through rate, but one of the reasons it does is because they make Japanese selvage denim. I'm not going to go into what selvage jeans are, but it's definitely something you want to look up. Here's the spelling right here in the title. Look it up, figure out what selvage jeans mean, or selvage denim in general, because there's also like jackets and stuff too. But it's going to significantly increase the value of any brand if you've got selvage, but this brand is kind of known for having some selvage jeans. So this is a pair of denim shorts, and because of the selvage, we were able to list them for $40, even with a few spots on the front. They only took 80 days to sell, so within goal, and they sold for full asking price of $40 on eBay, making my earnings $29.50. All right, something else I have been finding a lot of in flipping are one-piece swimsuits. Now again, this is going to slow down as we move towards that colder weather, but a brand that has a surprisingly good sell-through rate in one-piece swimsuits that I don't normally pick up is Garnet Hill. And I've been picking up a lot of them recently because I'm just coming across a lot of them. This was one of the new with tags ones I found recently, and I listed this for $35. And this one only took 16 days to sell. It almost made it to the fast category for one of those automatic nifty offers for $29.64, making my earnings on eBay $23.12. Again, great bread and butter to kind of a bolo. I mean, $35. Sale price, nothing to sneeze at. One way I elevate swimsuits like this is by really leaning into the shaping of it. These ruched details are more of a flattering fit that people are looking for. And so that's why you're seeing keywords like ruched, flattering, and shaping in the title. That's going to help to make it place better in search. And so yeah, this one sold in 16 days, and I actually just picked up another one from the bins, which I am really excited to list and get sold before fall hits. But Garnet Hill's been really great as far as one-piece swimsuits go. Another brand that's been really awesome is Halara. This is a brand I am seeing all over my thrift stores. I don't know how long the high sell-through rate's going to last, but it's everywhere. It's really easy to come across, and I can flip almost anything for around 25 bucks. So you definitely want to look up the style names of each of those. I do think it makes a huge difference as far as what you're going to get in sell-through rate, but I think it's worth looking up the style. So these were a pair of, they're called the split leg breezeful pants. They were in a size large petite, and these ones were new with tags. I listed them for $25. They only took 67 days to sell. They sold on an offer to watcher for $21.14, and that made my earnings $15.93. $16 for these bread and butter sales are really great for me. They help to, pad my sales, as I always say, and it's especially great when it's a brand I can come across a lot. Like every week I'm selling Halara, so definitely a brand to keep your eye out for and make sure you're looking up the style name on it. All right, next up, I had to throw in a style-based piece because we are still selling style-based stuff. This is Francesca's. This is not a brand you want to look for, but this is an example of a good style-based piece. This is a really beautiful kind of cream ivory colored top. It's sheer sleeves, it's got tiered details, it's embroidered. This gave me very Edwardian vibes with the puff sleeves, just the color of it, the billowy nature of it, and it also had some ruffle high neck details. Use keywords like angel, ethereal, and Edwardian. And yeah, it did really well for us. I wasn't expecting a lot from it, about 25 bucks, which is what we ended up getting on Poshmark. But it only took 62 days to sell, making earnings $20 on Poshmark. All right, next up, something else that has been performing well for me. REI is a brand I come across pretty frequently, and you would be surprised at how many bolos there are within the brand REI. Everybody looks for Patagonia, but REI is pretty good too, especially in the men's department. Again, not everything, but certain things. The reason I knew these would be good is because every month I do a trend report inside of Reseller's Edge, where I spend hours, probably 5 to 6 hours every month, combing through Google Trends, combing through eBay solds, combing through, articles, like tons of stuff, and figuring out how trends apply to the resale market so that I can let members inside of Reseller's Edge know every month through our trend report videos, which are live but have the replays, what buyers are looking for and what's selling well. And for a couple of months, waterproof hiking pants were popping up like crazy. And so when I saw these, even though they were REI, I thought they were going to be a good pickup. So I did get these. And I've been picking up a lot of men's waterproof pants and even women's, and they've been selling so well. But I definitely wouldn't have had that knowledge had I not, again, committed to being the most educated reseller, do hours of trend report stuff for Reseller's Edge through Google Trends and eBay Solds. And it just makes you unstoppable at thrift stores. And so this is definitely a good example of a piece like that when you have the right knowledge, because it's paired with a not so great brand. These were the 2.5 liter waterproof hiking pants, and they were also ripstop. I listed these for $40, which is really high for REI. And they sold in just 16 days of being listed for my full asking price on eBay, making my earnings $29.56. If you guys want access to those trend reports, first definitely make sure you go to the description and get your free 10 bolos. And also, if you're just like ready to take it to the next level and just save so much time, like if you trust me to do the research for you, save yourself so much time, it's totally worth a membership just for the trend reports alone. Plus, you'll get access to our full bolo list, which is over 800 vetted bolos with tag photos. So you're going to be learning a lot, and definitely get the edge on your competition. But these were an example of something I learned from getting that trend report ready. All right, let's dive into the 3 that did not go well. I definitely have lessons for all of them, and hopefully just some encouragement for you guys. Sometimes I think it's just good to hear that like other people have sales that don't go so well, you know? At least that's what I hear from you guys. So here are 3 of my worst sales, whether they're the lowest price or the slowest selling. I think, honestly, both in this case. This was my original photo. This is a pair of silk boho pants. They were kind of like a harem style, but unfortunately we did not do a good job in our cover photo when we listed these. You can see it's kind of hard to tell the shaping. It almost looks like a skirt. And so I definitely think that's why this one sold or took so long to sell, because otherwise it was a really great piece. We used great keywords like kaleidoscope, boho, lightweight, and festival, but they just sat. I recently told Reseller's Edge members, I often do experiments in Reseller's Edge with my own store, and I told them I was going to take a batch of my oldest items that have been sitting, put AI modeled photos, and see what sells. So this was part of that experiment, and it sold like immediately after getting it on. And I mean, this definitely looks a lot better, a lot more wearable. You can tell the shaping of it, and it sold like instantly after getting this AI model photo up versus this where it kind of looks like a skirt. So definitely think that's why it sat. I didn't change the price or anything. I just simply put the AI model photo on. And so the price was lower to begin with. I accepted an offer of $15. This took 247 days to sell, way past goal. And I only made $12 on the listing. So just a good lesson. Make sure that your cover photo, you don't have to use AI modeled photos. I have a video on that if you want to here on YouTube. You don't have to do that, but you should make sure, unlike this listing, that it, like, the buyer can see themselves in it. They understand exactly what it is. They don't think that a pair of pants is a skirt, right? Okay, next up, this is the brand Banana Republic. This was more of a style-based flip for us. And I wanted to show you guys this one because honestly, this is probably something I would pick up again. And I don't know if it's encouraging or discouraging to say it. I hope it's encouraging, but sometimes you just have duds. Sometimes you can just do all the right things and it just doesn't sell. Like, I have those too. Now, if that's happening on 50% of your listings or even 25%, like, it should be a very small amount, like 1% of your listings. But if it's not happening all the time, like, give yourself grace. Don't beat yourself up. Sometimes it just doesn't hit right in the algorithms. Sometimes somebody has the exact same one listed and you can do all of the right things and still not sell the item. But it shouldn't be happening all the time, which it doesn't. This one, again, I think I would actually pick this one up again. This is a decent brand made of high quality materials. This is a cable knit sweater. It's very old money looking. We use keywords like old money, cable knit, mock for the mock neck, and fisherman. In all accounts, this is a very trendy style-based piece, but it just did not move. And we even listed it in January at the peak of winter. Just didn't move. So this took 212 days to sell. I ended up dropping the price and it ended up selling for around $12. Ouch, on eBay, making my earnings $9.15 on eBay. So was this a mistake? I don't know, but I wanted to, again, just show this to you guys in this section to just give yourselves a break sometimes. Like, you don't always have to question every little thing. Like, sometimes it's just a dud. Sometimes it just is. Okay, and the very last one, this one definitely we made some mistakes on. This is a pair of Forever 21 wide leg pants. This was back when I told you guys I was going to experiment on picking up wide leg pull-on pants and see how it went. Some things did sell really well for me. Some things did not. This was one of the things that did not. I'm guessing it's because it's a boho print, but it's just not really special looking. Like, I could see this. I do see this at the bins pretty often, and so I think it just needs a little bit more extra character to it that would have made this item sell. But wide leg pair of pants, we use keywords such as boho, southwestern, Aztec, and pull-on, which I think are all great keywords for this, but again, it's just nothing really special, and so this one did not make the cut for that experiment as others did. I had this one listed for 164 days before it sold for $10.64, making my earnings on eBay $9.97. All right, you guys, so that's it for what sold last week. Hope that you all enjoyed watching. Let me know how sales are going down below. Let me know, did you have a dud yourself that finally sold last week? And did you dive into why it might not be selling? I've shared some with you guys. I'd love to hear from you as well. And I think as a reseller community, if we share, more stuff, then we can help other people not make those mistakes as well. Don't forget, the link will be in the description for those 10 bolos that you can look for. So check that out if you would like. And otherwise, I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.